Hey guys, how you doing? If you hear any snoring in the background, it's my little pug. It's pretty late. Um, Having trouble sleeping, thinking about just this whole situation, all this kind of stuff. Like I'm not immune to sort of existential plight and all of that kind of ridiculousness. The thing that's really plaguing my brain right now is like I really think that the CRB program should be made universal, right? It absolutely should be. To me, it's a no-brainer, and I think we've hit the wall, right? We always knew that there was going to be a pushback from the business community. We always knew that there was going to be a pushback by these guys saying, okay, everybody, just back to work. Let's get back to normal. That's what they're going to be saying. Let's get back to normal. We always knew that was going to happen. Um, and it's frustrating because the more I dig into it and the more I kind of talk to people, the more I really see that the central issue is that we've really been trained to mistrust one another. That's really what it comes down to. Like, plenty of people have said to me that, well, if you pass a basic income, right, if you make the CRB universal, people just walk off the job. They just won't do it. They'll just leave. And my response to that is really clearly, look, if people are not feeling safe or they're feeling like they're not in a good position, then they should leave. Absolutely. Um, but if the reason why some of these essential services are going to go, like, there's a grocery store just across the way from me, and it's open, and I would go work a couple of shifts a week, absolutely, and I bet you have plenty of people in this neighborhood would work. Uh, isn't the whole reason why we've been keeping their wages so low, even though they're essential workers, is this sort of jibe of, oh well, anyone can do that. Well, if anyone can do it, then anyone can do it. And the only reason why there's this select group that are doing it is because they're trapped in this capitalist system that is designed to trap them. And here I am sitting with the CRB, and I'm trapped in it too. Like, I can't walk over there and be like, hey, can I pick up a shift or two? I don't know what that's going to do for my benefits, right? I can't pay rent on a couple of shifts a week. But if I could work a couple of shifts a week and still have a basic income, still have some kind of thing, right? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think most people would operate that way, right? We've been thrown out of non-essential work. It's like millions of people, right? Millions of people have been thrown out and have been told that their work is non-essential, right? And in the meantime, there's people doing the quote unquote essential work, uh, but they're being worked to the bone. Like, it's absolutely stupid. Can't we even this out? Can't we just pass a basic income, have everybody operating with a foundation, with a floor that everyone can work from, and then can't we simply say to the populace, okay, hey, like, there's still labor that needs to be done. But instead of having like a small group of people do all the work, can't we have everyone do, like a modest amount? Like, isn't this the entire point of building an economic system? Isn't the entire point of having a society so that you can distribute the labor into the society and make it so that uh, uh, the necessary work is done and distributed throughout the society equitably? Like, isn't the whole point of having any kind of organizational structure to say, like, okay, well, rather than having one person do all this labor and then pay them survival wages to do it while everybody else is just sort of sitting around, how about everybody just does a little bit of that work? Right? It's so obvious to me. And like, there's lots of people that are like, well, there should be a federal jobs program. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think that would do very well coupled with a basic income. I think that if you had a basic income so that everyone was just taken care of, like it's all taken care of. There's just nobody can fall through cracks. There's no missing kind of people. There's nobody off on the side. There's nobody who's got they missed this little checkbox, or they didn't reach this criteria. They didn't do X or Y or Z. Just, are you alive? You get a basic income, right? And once you have that in place, then yeah, you can create a jobs program, and you can say to people like, okay, hey, like there's work to be done, and employers can go to this jobs program and be like, hey, we need workers. Let's organize this and use it as a way to group people together to get the necessary work done. Like, one of the things I think is absolutely crazy to me is we bring people from out of country to work in the fields, to work with farmers. That's insane to me. Like, people, I genuinely do think that, like, people would do that work. The problem is that it's seasonal work, right? That's the issue. And so people need to they need to work a full-time job. Like, everybody has to be working a full-time job in this stupid society, in the insipid way that we've structured this. Like, our parents, it literally was one person would work a full-time job and support a family with kids. That's how I grew up. That's how my family operated. That's gone. Like, that's dead. In one generation, we went from a single worker can have a house, kids, a spouse, a car, and go on vacations, and all of this kind of stuff, to everyone has to be constantly working. Fuck your vacations. Fuck your kids. Like, that's not going to happen. And if you want any of that, well, you better be highly educated. You better be working in like the upper echelons of the society. There's something wrong with us. There's something wrong with our society, and there's something deeply wrong with the way we think about things. Like, if everyone had a basic income, things like seasonal work would be, yeah, okay, like let's go do that. And I don't understand why we can't organize this so that leisure time is most of the time. Like, that seems obvious, that we really could structure things so that most of the time people have their own free time. And every so often there would come a call that would be, okay, there is an expectation of contribution of labor, but it isn't the entirety of your life for the benefit of a billionaire class you'll never meet and who do not care about you. It will be for the benefit of the society. And I just don't understand why it's so difficult, why it would be so difficult to organize. Like, you know how many laborers you need. You and you could put it on a cycle, right? And if you had more labor than there was work, well, then you just dump it over so that the people who didn't go to work this year, they go to work next year, and just cycle it. Like, I think there's all kinds of ideas that you could do. Like, you could build in like a labor expectation into the education system, that kids who graduate from high school, the expectation is that they spend a year doing grocery work, right? Like, they spend a year picking apples, right? They spend a year doing this kind of thing, and that's the expectation. It's built into the education system. I mean, I think plenty of people complain about, well, how odd it is that, like, you get these kids, then they never actually work a job, and then they're off in university, right? They become a doctor, lawyer, engineer, and they never actually know what it's like to work in these environments. All they ever know is school and then the job, the doctor, lawyer, engineer. And I'm just like, how about we have these people contributing to the necessary essential labor, which isn't to say doctor, lawyer, engineer isn't that, but why can't we have this more streamlined? Why can't we have a larger expectation that the society should have a say about how its labor is distributed? This open market that's dominated by billionaires, like, it obviously doesn't work. We're living in the lived reality of why it doesn't work. And even when we're not in the midst of a pandemic, it exhausts everyone. Everyone is working as hard as they possibly can and getting nowhere, so that a couple of billionaires can get higher numbers in their bank accounts. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And it's so frustrating to me that there's a segment of our populace that really is sitting there going like, well, I guess, we got to get back to work, right? Like, people got to work to... And there's a defeatist mindset for these people. They see it as just like, well, yeah, I mean, sure, there are billionaires that are... All of that you say is true, John. Like, it's absolutely true. What do we do? Right? That's just what it is. We got to make money. We got to go to work, right? I got bills to pay. And it just doesn't have to be this way. It just doesn't have to be this way at all. And while I think it's fine to kind of give kudos to the liberals for not going the way of the Americans, but like, that's not even a bar. Like, I mean, what the Americans are doing is just it is a death cult. Like, it is just a sacrificial, like, the only thing that's missing is a ritual, right? The only thing that's missing is like just a guy in a hood, like, praising the Dark Lord Moloch in front of everyone. But just find that guy and you've got your death cult, right? Like, just get him in front of in one of these presidential speeches, right, or one of these presidential conferences, or meeting with the media. Just send a guy in a hood, right, and he can go, the people will be sacrificed for the Dark Lord Moloch, and the bounty will go to those who are worthy, i.e., the 10 billionaires. And there you go. You've got your death cult. Right? The pieces are all in place. So we shouldn't be comparing ourselves. If anything, we should be looking at that with revulsion. We should be doing everything we can to cease structuring our society like that. Literally anything would be smarter. Literally anything would be better. Like, literally anything would be smarter and better. And my deepest fear, and I've been saying this in a couple of videos now, but my deepest fear is that the liberals are just going to back off on all of this. That they're going to be like, okay, these were temporary measures, right? Or we set up the infrastructure for a basic income, but we were never actually going to maintain that for any serious length of time. And somehow the NDP would go along with that, or if the NDPs did say, no, we're gonna pass a basic income, that the populace would be gulled by the capitalist class, that they would buy into the propaganda of the capitalist class. Death cultists like John Ivison actually convince people, right? There is like 25% of the populace that believes we never should have done any of this. They believe that we should have just stayed at work. Right? 25% of the populace believes that sacrificing your life and putting you in danger is acceptable for the economy. And it's, when you actually listen to what they're talking about, they really are saying, like, we should sacrifice your life so that a billionaire can have a couple of extra dollars in their bank account. I'm not dying for someone I've never met and who does not care about me. Like, and I'm not going to transmit a disease to someone and have them die for these people who obviously do not care about us and who are abandoning us and who will abandon us, and who exist in a structure, an economic structure that rewards them for abandoning us. And my great fear is that we're on this precipice now where we can we can see it. We can see a transition away, not a full abandonment of capitalism, because the society is not ready for that. People are not ready for that, but certainly a shift away from it. Certainly a move, a pivot to allow us to get a bit more control of our own lives, to get a bit more, like, these individualists, like, you can only be an individual if you're a millionaire or a billionaire, right? That's the only method by which you are allowed to have individual uh, um, force in the world. That you have to be rich, and if you're not rich, well, then you're lazy and you need to just work harder. And how do you work harder? Well, the only work that counts, the only work that matters to these people is selling yourself to billionaires. That's the only work that matters. Doesn't matter if you volunteer. Doesn't matter if you're taking care of your friends and your family. None of that counts. None of that counts as economic activity. And it's shameful that it's that way. It's absolutely shameful that there's no the way that our society has been pilfered by these wealthy billion, and the lies, the absolute overt, outright lies they've been telling us. And so for us to have this moment where we finally do have something like, it's like the prototype of a basic income. It's like the precursor. It's like the Betamax of basic incomes. And we can see how all you need to do is roll it out to everyone and let people work, right? Like me right now, like, I'm not working, but if there was a slot at some of these grocery stores, some of this essential labor, perhaps I would gladly throw my name in, but I would lose my benefits. So we're all caught in this insipid sort of nonsense, and it's all being designed so that once the pandemic ends, they can just slip it away and turn around and say to the populace, okay, we're going to just sell you back to the capitalist death cult. You know those guys that were saying you should all go back to work and die and risk death so that I can get more money? Yeah, those guys are going to be in charge again. No, absolutely not. I know that I'm good. The way I'm talking right now, like when this pandemic is over, and if the liberals try to pull back and try to sell the society back to these capitalist death cultists, my job is every night to go out and find a mic and say exactly what I'm saying right now on that mic, to find the cleanest, most efficient way of absolutely cutting to the heart of each individual person and making them realize, oh yeah, these capitalists are sociopaths. We don't need to live with them. Why do they have decision-making power in our lives? Why do they matter at all? And they shouldn't. They shouldn't matter at all. We should get rid of them. The last 40 years has been a complete lie. The neoliberal experiment is a failure, and we need to see that and acknowledge that. And I'll be very sad. I'll be deeply saddened if, when it comes to the choosing moment, something like an election, because it seems to be the kind of thing that we would have an election about, that we would just decide, nah, what we were doing before with the capitalists, that's fine. I mean, do we have such low self-esteem in ourselves? Do we honestly believe that our lives would somehow be less worth living if it wasn't by selling ourselves to other people? I know that we can do better. I know that we can do better. We just have to choose to. All right. I hope you guys are having fun out there. Good luck.